What's the word? What's the word, baby? You know what time it is, man. We got to react. Finally have the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers draft, and it's completed, man. No more of this mock draft stuff. No more of the guesswork. We officially know what is up, man. So, like I said, man, for myself, definitely excited about it. I know y'all are ecstatic. And like I said, we're going to deep dive into all the prospects, man. I figure I'd give my first initial reactions now that I've finally had a little bit of chill time, man. It's been crazy these past couple of days with the draft, man, between, you know, doing the hosting interviews down at the stadium on Thursday. Obviously, Friday night was doing, you know, mother-in-law vibing out, but we got some content up. And then Saturday, man, was down at the stadium. Saw a couple of y'all as well, man. Salute to y'all that was down out there, man. But tons of interviews, man, with the top 4 draft picks, excuse me, man. Got a chance to talk with Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Payton Wilson, and Roman Wilson. So obviously we'll talk about some of that as well today. And you know we got the Big Boy podcast tomorrow. You don't want to miss that, 4 p.m. right here on the channel, man. Me and the homie Deke, we're going to definitely give both of our thoughts and, you know, compare and contrast our opinions and stuff like that, man. So definitely going to be a vibe. So with that being the case, man, before we start it like how we normally do, you see the logo up in the this side, right? Okay, it says DraftKings. So if it's a DraftKings show, well, you know we got to talk about them, all right? So shout out to DraftKings. They are sponsoring tonight's show. And we know whenever we talk DraftKings, they are the top rated sports booking app in North America. I mean, they're safe, secure, reliable, and when you talk about all the sports stuff that is happening, man, you got to get active, or you at least, you know, want to have something that is safe if you're going to decide to put a little extra on anything, man. So the simplest way to do it is, if you're new to the app, when you download it, use the promo code Moats. When you do that, you make your first bet of $5. You will receive $200 in bonus bets that you get to utilize for the potential to make more money. But we also know the NBA playoffs are currently going on. So for all customers, whether you're current or new, you can also get a no sweat SGP/SGPX every single day during the NBA playoffs. So you don't want to miss that. But we also know that sometimes you get a little activated and, you know, you have a little too much fun. Well, there is nothing wrong when that happens. Because if you happen to have a gambling problem or you need crisis counseling and referral services, well, hey, if you're in New York, that's the number to text. But for everybody else, the digits to dial are 1-800-GAMBLER. I said 1-800-GAMBLER. I said you better. I said you better. I said you better call. 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, let's get active. So drop it in the comment section. Let me know where you are tuning in from. And in that way, I'll give you that big boy shout out to start the day's show. And of course, don't forget to hit that like button one time for the culture and subscribe if you're new to the channel. As you've seen, man, throughout this process, we gonna get that content to you. We reacting live. Sometimes we pre-recorded, but we like it to be interactive, all right? So let's get it. Let's get it. Hey, I see you. I see you. J-Dub said he sounded like classic Aretha Franklin right there. That's what I thought too, man. So salute you on that. I could dig that. I could dig that. The Jacob Malacio says, man, I don't know if I'm listening to Arthur Moats or is this Luther Vandross. I get it. I promise I do. You know the vocals, man. And I ain't even warmed it up all the way just shit. That was just me playing with it. You feel me? Come on now. You know what time we on. Zig Shazier said, bro, you sound like the second coming of Michael Jackson. Jeez. Hey, man. Hey, I'm trying to stay humble. Let me stay humble, all right? Jeez, Louise. All right. I see the homie KG Beats in Sacktown. Shout out, or not Sacktown, Stockton. Excuse me, on that Stockton, California, the 209. Shout out to the Diaz brothers. If you know, you know. Apex City 412. In the beautiful 412 city of Bridgeville. If you know, you know. Then after that, we got Nick White, yo, in the 918, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Salute you in Tulsa. Tom J tuning in from Earth. The Milky Way galaxy, baby. Love that. If you ain't researching what you're doing, all right? Come on, baby. Antoine Hill in Philadelphia. Shout out to Philly one time. Colin Burden in the 513 enemy territory. Yeah, stay strong over there, though, all right? Respect. Nazim Mula in Johannesburg, South Africa. Shout out to South Africa. One time for the culture. Never been, but I think I want to visit one day. All right. Gregory Collins in the 727, Newport Richey, Florida. Jar Devil in the 310, San Pedro, California. And the homie Jim Hicks in Leesburg, Florida. Shout out. Oh, I see you. Jacob Malissio says, yo, thanks for the extra content. Nah, man, I appreciate y'all. I mean, it's a simple thing. I've told y'all this numerous times, right? If y'all rock with the content, the views is doing what they supposed to, y'all engaging with it, man, I'm going to keep dropping. Trust me, man, because it's something that I love to do, and wifey loves it too. So I'm like, if wifey like it, I like it, bro, we straight. Y'all rocking with it, so let's keep doing this thing, man. So from the heart, I appreciate you, baby, all right? But let's tap in, man. Let's tap in. Okay, we got a super that came in. Shout out to the homie David Dupree, man. David Dupree, DD Spawns, I see you in the building. He says, you've been a busy man these last few days, and we appreciate you. Nah, man, I appreciate y'all, especially you, DD Spawns, because you obviously, you see it both sides, man. You with the behind-the-scenes team as well. But let's start with the update, man. Busy couple of days. Very true. Talked about on the podcast Thursday night. Did the interviews with Deshaun Elliott and Corey Trice down at the stadium, right? For the Sweet Holders draft party. Fun time that we came home, did the whole live watch party. Was a vibe. But yesterday, man, we were down at the stadium for the Steelers official draft, party for the fans and everybody like that. But they had the first round draft picks pulled through. And man, well, not just the first round draft picks, the first 4 picks pulled through. And I'm going to just give you, initial reactions, eyeball tests. And then after that, we can deep dive into, the different picks, and what we like about them, don't like about them. Troy Fautanu is a massive man, bro. All right. Like, you watch him on tape, you see the size. Like, he's not a crazy tall guy, but definitely 6'4". You definitely get that when you see him in person, but the size, that dude is solid as a rock. I mean, you talk about, the big athleticism that he brings, you see it, and he is a football first guy. Love that about him, man. No nonsense. Like, he's ready to play. He's ready to hit somebody, man. Love that. Payton Wilson is a little bit taller than I thought as well. Payton Wilson's about 6'3" too, man. All right. He's long, but also very put together. Now, I know he has some of the injury history, but when you see him in person, yeah, he looked like he ready to play some real life football, man. Like I said, man, strong cat though, man. Well put together. Roman Wilson, a little shorter than I thought. He's a little on the short side. But you see the speed. And that's the one thing that, pops up on tape with him. So when I think of just, how that complements a GP, I'm like, okay, you my speed, you my route, you my But yeah, he was a little bit shorter than I would have liked. I was just like, yo, I thought you had a little bit on you, man. Zach Frazier. Man, Zach is small compared to Jackson Powers Johnson and to Graham Barton. But Zach Frazier is not little. Let's make sure we communicate that properly, all right? Because I do feel like there was some times where we kind of talked about Zach Frazier, and when we're comparing him to JPJ or Graham Barton, we're like, yeah, he's the little of the 3. He's the smallest of the guys. You see that man in person, he's not small. He's a dago sitter. It's just the other 2 dudes were a little bit bigger, all right? But you definitely feel comfortable with him playing the center position. You definitely feel comfortable with the frame on this kid, man. And yeah, I don't think we're going to be worried about him being undersized or short or anything like that. It's just when you were comparing him to the other 2 guys, they happen to be a little bit bigger, so that became the conversation. But yeah, seeing them dudes in person, man, it definitely kind of changed some of those little thought processes that we've kind of, factored in as we've been seeing them on tape, because it is different when you watch a guy on tape versus seeing him in person versus even seeing what the school or NFL or ESPN or one of these websites might have them listed as. Sometimes, they'll fabricate, make a guy too tall. I know on draft night they had Troy Fautanu at 6'3", and we're like, dang, that's kind of short. Seeing him in person, my man is not 6'3". All right, I got some pictures. We're going to post it there, man. My man is not 6'3". I know how tall I am. Yeah, I was like, okay, buddy, gotcha. Yeah, I like it, though. I like it. So, with that being the case, man, now let's start talking about some of these players and what they bring to the table specifically and why we should like them, all right? Shout out to Let's Go UW. I just seen your super chat. He says, still in Detroit. Don't hate the draft. Would have liked the cornerback earlier, personally. But we'll see how it shapes out. McCormick is the only one I question. All right. And Let's Go UW is referring to Mason McCormick, the guard that we took in the, I want to say, let me pull it up real quick. Make sure I don't draw a blank on him in the 4th round. Yep. Make sure I mix that up. 119 overall out of South Dakota State. Shout out to the Jackrabbits one time for the culture. All right, that's a fair assessment. That's fair. So let's get to it then, man. Okay. And like I said, I don't know if I already said it or not, but I'm going to say it again either way. Hit that like button one time for the culture. Don't forget to subscribe, all right? So when we talk first rounder, Troy Fautanu, love the pick. Why do I love the pick? Well, we talked about it on draft night. If you want your offensive line to be better, you got to invest in it. If you want your offensive line to protect better, you have to invest in it. If you want your offensive line to block better in the run game, you have to invest in it. And when I think of the type of investments that we had in the past, right? When you're talking about the different teams that made long postseason runs or even Super Bowl championships, we had just a little bit more invested there, whether it was, former high-end pieces or new contract high-end pieces. But either way, we had just a little bit more in that room. And I think that the mindset right now is let's try to reinvest in that. We obviously know Andy Weidl. That's one of the big staples with him. He invested in that offensive line. So the Troy Fautanu pick, I thought, just reiterated that point. You're bringing a guy in that has positional flexibility, can play either tackle spot, can play either guard spot. They talked about him playing some center. I haven't seen that on his tape just yet, but in terms of all the other lineman spots, he could definitely play that. And seeing him in person, the size that he has, yeah, he's not going to be too small. And I know he has the super long arms. That's the other part with him. His arms are just as long as, a Joe Alt or some of these other tackles that were coming out that were a little bit more prototypical height. Okay, so in terms of Troy, I like that a lot. I'm also feeling like, man, I got my opposite tackle of Broderick Jones. So I have 2 bullies, 2 monsters, 2 ultra athletic big guys that I've invested first round draft picks in. So I should have that position taken care of for the next 5 to 10 years, right? Barring anything catastrophic injuries, stuff like that. So definitely was digging the Troy pick. No complaints with that there, man. When we talk Zach Frazier, we said, man, if you were going to go Troy, and we're not putting him at center, right? And we're going to go Troy, and we weren't going to play him at guard, which we initially thought when me and Deke first saw it, was like, yo, they got him listed as a guard. So maybe they're going to put him at guard, move James Daniels to center. Now we're hearing it again. He's going to be playing tackle. Coach Tomlin said that. So now it's like, all right, we knew we needed a center. Well, of the big 3, we said we had to get one of them. Graham Barton, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and Zach Frazier. We were able to get Zach Frazier in that 2nd round, 51st overall pick. Didn't even have to move up to get him. I was very much excited to see that because obviously we knew if we could get one of those big 3, we felt extremely good about the direction of our offensive line going forward. We felt extremely good about Russ or Justin Fields in terms of the protection that they will be receiving. And more importantly, Najee and Jaylen Warren. We felt like both of those guys would be able to fully take advantage of their talents with better, running lanes. So with that, man, let's get Zach Frazier checks off all those boxes. You talk about tough, gritty, smart. I mean, just across the board, this is what you want, man. Climbs up to the 2nd level extremely well. Plays in space well. Like I said, he was just the smaller of the big 3. Of the top 3 of those guys, he was probably the 3rd best in terms of athleticism. Still is a dope athlete. Just when you're comparing him to JPJ or Graham Barton, those guys give you a little bit more. But in terms of Zach Frazier, him coming in here, to me, that's the day 1 starter. He's going to get a chance to compete. And I like his chances of winning it out to be that day 1 starter just because of the size, the skill. And when you watch him on tape at West Virginia, all those things show up. And I love the fact that this is a guy that even, when it's not the best, when it's not the prettiest, he still finds ways to win. He still finds ways to make sure that, okay, I'm in a bad body position. It might not look good from an optical standpoint, but in terms of, is this a check plus or is this a minus mark, it's still a positive check because his guy didn't make the play. His guy didn't have a negative impact on the offense. And that's, what he brings to the table. So definitely like what I see with Zach Frazier. All right. Now we're going to talk a little Roman Wilson here. All right. Roman Wilson, took him in the 3rd round, 84th overall out of Michigan. The cat could play. He's a big reason why J.J. McCarthy had the success that he had through the air, and obviously why J.J. was able to be a 1st-round draft pick. Roman was his guy, though, all right? In terms of off-the-line release, you're not pressing this dude. He's winning off the line. He could play slot. He could play I think more of the number 2 receiver because he's a little, like I say, he's a smaller receiver, right? Not thin, but just shorter in stature. But extremely competitive, extremely tough, and when you watch him catch that football, man, his run after also is what shows up on tape consistently with him. Those are the things that really make me excited when I look at Roman Wilson. And then when you also talk about the pedigree, he's coming from Michigan, where he just was under Jim Harbaugh, and we obviously know that's the cat that's going over to the coach over at the Chargers, right? Everybody was loving him. Everybody was excited about him. Won a national championship. So you feel good about the NFL style coaching that he received. You feel good about the just big stage, not feeling like it's going to be too big for him. But ultimately, man, that's one of those guys that I think is going to be a nice complementary piece to a George Pickens, because we said GP is down the grass, right? Combat, catch, 50-50 ball. We talk about Quez Watkins and Calvin Austin. Those are our blazers, right? Super speed dudes, right? Then you got Van Jefferson, who is a dope receiver, but a little bit on the older side now. So we bring in a guy that is more of a Deontay Johnson style receiver than a GP style receiver. And you bring in a guy that's going to be a lot more catch friendly or quarterback friendly as well because of the separation he's able to generate early on. So to me, man, definitely like this pick. I think that this could be a really nice signing for us, man, because we do need the route runner in the group, right? Now, when you also talk about that 2nd, 3rd round pick, 98th overall, Payton Wilson, NC State off-ball linebacker. I like this pick, man. Now, it's a weird pick, but the reason why I like it is because we're in the 3rd round, okay? Payton Wilson, if we're talking just talent and production, Payton Wilson is a 1st-round draft pick. That's not a debate. That was never a debate. You could date back to the combine, pro days, anything in between. If we're strictly talking his talent, his production on the field, you are not having any second thoughts about taking this kid in the 1st round. The reason why he was available at 98th overall is because of the injury history. It's not a normal injury history. This is a guy that's had double-digit surgery since high school. So when we say, oh, well, everybody gets injured in the NFL, what's the difference? Or you can't plan for a guy to get hurt. Oh, man, you can't be nervous about it. What we're saying is this. It's a 100% injury rate regardless. So if you're coming in healthy, it's a 100% chance that you're going to get hurt. The question is, how hurt are you going to get? So when you see a guy that's coming in already banged up, so to speak, right, in terms of some of the surgeries that he's had, that's the question. That's the part where people are just questioning if he's going to be able to last. And when you see people say he's probably a 1-contract guy because of how violent this game is, if you're already coming in at 80% health, that's the part where they feel like, yo, he might not make it out of them first 4 years. But what I would say is this, man, if he is only a 1-contract guy, I think that he has the chance to be an elite player here because of his traits. When we talk about the size, like I said, I think he's a 6'3" cat, like a true long rangy cat, man. But you watch him in coverage, he can do any zone stuff. He has the physical traits to play man. You watch him blitz, he can rush the passer inside, outside, beats running backs routinely. He also plays with insane effort. I mean, the kid is chasing you from anywhere on this field. It doesn't matter. If he sees you with that ball, he is going to get you. That's how he plays the game, man. But then you also talk about him being a turnover magnet, man. Just a guy that is constantly in the right place, and that's due to his film study. We call it instincts, right? It's like, oh man, he's always in the right place at the right time. Well, why is that? Nah, it's because he studies tape. He understands how to be in the correct position, and that's why when an overthrow happens or a tip happens or a fumble happens, he's in the right spot for that. But you see the athleticism once he gets the football in his hands, he is able to make plays. So like I said, man, Payton Wilson, I'm a fan, huge fan of him, man. It was just he was hurt. And when you talk about some of the injury stuff, that's what makes teams scared to put massive investments into that position. No different than running back. If you're a running back, teams don't want to pay a lot on running backs because of the same conversation. Well, after, he has his first 4 years, how much is he going to last? He's going to fall off a cliff now because his body's too banged up. That's the combo of Payton Wilson. But either way, we will cross that bridge when it is time to cross that bridge. To get this type of player in the 3rd round, we're going to rock with this one, man. So like I said, I'm a fan, big time fan. All right, now we get to Mason McCormick, pick 119 in the 4th round. Let's go UW. Like you said, was a little bit hesitant, and I get it. I definitely can understand. Small school guy, South Dakota State, right? And the reason why I keep saying shout out to the Jackrabbits is because when I got drafted to the Buffalo Bills, when we first got up there for our rookie mini camp, this before you get your house and stuff like that, they kind of paired us all together as draft picks. And my roommate, Danny Batten, was also a fellow 6th rounder, but he went to South Dakota State. He was a Jackrabbit. So that's why I always shout them out. All right. That was my first NFL roommate. So shout out to my dog and shout out to South Dakota State. But Mason McCormick, to me, man, think a smaller version of like or not even, I don't want to say smaller, but he pushed him on the mind of Zach Frazier just as a guard. That's him right now. Can play in space, climbs to the 2nd level, strong, can anchor versus the bull, does a good job of mirroring in terms of when a guy's trying to counter, right? If he's trying to rush this way and get stopped, he tries to cross over, cross face. He does a good job of adjusting his feet, keeping a good base. Now, why is he in the 4th round then if he's all those things? Well, the big thing is, number one, he played at South Dakota State. So when you play at a smaller school, there are going to be questions. If you watch Zach Frazier miss a block at West Virginia and he's playing Oklahoma, you're not tripping. If you watch, Mason McCormick miss a block and, he's at South Dakota State and he's playing maybe Portland State, it's a different combo. And I think that's kind of, the question surrounding Mason. I think initially, though, great depth. I think when you're talking about him backing up both Seyu Malu and James Daniels, along with trying to compete with the Nate Herbig, I like him in that vein. I think that he can do both, left and right guard, and I think that he does provide some nice competition for Nate Herbig, and he's a cheaper option as well. That's kind of how I looked at this move right here. But do I look at him as a day 1 starter? No. But do I think he has the upside to develop into a starter? Yes. Because of the size, because of how he moves in, because of how he plays in space. Now, the big question with him is going to be, can his game translate from the 1AA level to the NFL level? Because the athletes on the 2nd level that he was climbing to get at South Dakota State, those linebacker safeties are going to look a little bit different at the NFL level from a size, speed, and just athleticism and space standpoint. So that's going to be the part with Mason where we're going to find out. All right. I can't say yay or nay to that. We are all just going to speculate with that. So that's why for me, I'm waiting and seeing, and we won't get those answers in OTAs. That'll be a training camp, preseason games, and etc. type of convo. But like I said, definitely like Mason, man. I think that he brings, a certain level of toughness in that interior offensive line. And when you're talking about just investing into the depth, if this is your depth piece and it's a 4th rounder, Kevin Dotson started for us, man. That was a 4th rounder, mid-round pick, if I remember correctly. We talk about Dan Moore. Now, Dan wasn't, I want to say he was 4th. I got to remember. He was another mid-round guy. So it's like when you look at some of these mid-round draft picks, man, that's the part where you do feel like, all right, we can still get some quality. We can still get some value in these players. And I do feel like with Mason, we're going to get that. All right, now we're getting out to the final 2. Now, pick 178. That's my favorite pick, especially when it's our team drafting them because that's when I got drafted. All right, round 6, pick 178. Got it tatted on the boy and everything. But Logan Lee, interior D lineman out of Iowa. I have to look to see if he's actually a former tight end. I kind of assumed he was because he wore 85, and most of the time when you see a D tackle wearing 85, it means they came in as a tight end or a wide receiver, and the coach that was recruiting him waited till the spring and was like, all right, you done trying out at wide receiver or a tight end, and we're going to move you over to the D line. But you get to keep your number, though. So for me, man, he has great length, man. When you watch him, I think he's, 6'5"? Yeah, 6'5", 290-ish, pretty good frame. Like I said, put together well. To me, when I watch him, he's not the most explosive athletically, right? He's not a guy that has this elite first step where he's just going to burst through the gap. But when you watch him, I think his game translates to perfectly to that DN spot in our base defense, right? When you talk about Loudermilk, when you talk about DeMarvin Leal, he's going to have a body type similar to them, but I don't personally feel like he's as athletic as either one of those guys. But I do feel like he's a far more consistent player, hat and hands wise, than both of those guys. And that's the intriguing part. When we're talking about how do you survive at the NFL level, man, we say it's a couple of things, man. You either have the crazy combo of size and speed and athleticism, or you're fundamentally sound, right? And you the super smart cat, you know where everything is supposed to be at, and that way you can kind of shave a step or two to make up for the difference of athleticism, all right? So when I think of that, I look at Logan Lee and I'm like, yeah, you're not the most athletic. Cool. You know how many dudes survive in this league that aren't the most athletic? Yeah, you can make a great career out of this thing. So for Logan, his game is technique. His game is effort. His game is doing all of those little things right. And that's the part where I think he's going to be really competitive with Loudermilk and Leal in terms of competing for that depth spot behind some of those, behind Cam and Keanu and Larry O. All right, so I definitely like that. Now, the final pick, man, 195, Ryan Watts, DB out of Texas. The reason why I said DB is because he's listed as a corner. He played corner at Texas before transferring from Ohio State. All right, he's a massive corner, though. I'm talking 6'3", 210, big, long guy. Corey Trice, I thought, was a massive corner because JPJ is a big corner, but Corey Trice is low-key bigger than JPJ when you see them in person. Ryan Watts is bigger than both of them dudes, though, man. So to me, I look at him as a true zone corner, cover two, pressed up, bully, beat up any receiver that you facing, and sink. All right. I look at him in that cover three, off, use your range, your vision, play it that way. But if you want my personal opinion, I would love to see him potentially get a look at safety / that slot area, slot corner. Because to me, if we were going to go with the bully approach, and this is what we talked about with Cooper DeJean, we said Cooper could play in that slot corner / both safety spots, or if it's a zone concept, you could leave him out there at outside corner because of the size and physicality. Ryan Watts gives you a lot of similar things. Not as productive as Cooper, though. That's the difference. Not as productive. But you can see some of the versatility due to his size and athleticism. And that's the part where when I'm thinking to myself of, okay, if you wanted to try him out there as safety, he has some speed and some corner. So, you know, coverage should translate. But then also he has a willingness to hit. And that was the difference when we're talking about Pat Pete, when he was playing back there at safety. And even he talked about it. Tackling is different at safety than it is at corner. But when you watch Ryan Watts, he just looks a lot more enthused and eager to be a tackler when he's out there. You watch him ragdoll some of these corners, come up and provide really good run support. That's the part for me that makes me want to kind of see him at that safety spot or even in the nickel. But if we're doing him at nickel, I really only like it in certain calls. Zone concepts, blitzes, fire zone, stuff like that. Because once again, he's going to struggle with some of those smaller, laterally quick guys. He's going to struggle having to man up some of these receivers. So if you have a team where they use big tight ends, athletic tight ends, or you have a team that likes to put their big receivers in the interior part of the, offense, like we saw the, who's the team? The Chargers do that time with Keenan Allen running up against the linebackers. That's the alternate. That's the guy that you would put out there, Ryan Watts. So that's kind of how I look at him like that. But those are my initial reactions to these guys. As a whole, man, I love this draft, though. I think we got the quality players that we needed in terms of starter caliber guys on the offensive line, in terms of Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier. I think that you have a nice potential wide receiver, too, in Roman Wilson. The upside on Payton Wilson, the athleticism, the sideline. The big question is, will his body hold up? As long as his body holds up, you got you a dude that can come in here and start opposite of Patrick Queen, and I promise you we will love his game as long as he's healthy. All right? So I like that. You get the depth in terms of Mason McCormick, and then from there, man, you give me an interior D-line flyer, and then you give me a corner / safety athlete prospect. I like this draft a lot, man. Not even gonna lie to you, I like it a lot. I see a lot of the reports out there giving it A's and A+, and honestly, in terms of just initial reactions, how do you not go that route, right? Or at least for me, that's kind of how I looked at it, because I just say, with the grading, position of needs, do we check those boxes off? Yes. Talent, in terms of do we just get dope players? And I personally feel like we did. And then when you talk about some of the value in which we got these players, well, we said, man, if we didn't have to take a center at 20, well, let's see if we can make it to 51. And we did, right? Shout out to the fact that we did, Zach Frazier. But with the other position, it was like we didn't have to reach per se for any of these players. And that's the part that you want to see in a draft like this, man. So that's why for me initially, I do give it an A+, man. I'm like, yo, we're going to see what they develop into. And, you know, for the big wigs, the super brains, cool, man. Y'all can take that approach. But for, you know, how I look at it right now, my initial knee-jerk reaction is, yeah, this is a dope draft, man. We've seen other teams, man. We could go look around the league right now and we don't have the same feeling as we do with this particular class. If this class was another team, we'd be like, yeah, they killed that draft. So that's kind of how I look at this situation right here, man. But enough of me rambling, giving my personal, you know, thoughts on the guys. Now let's drop it to the comment section and see what y'all have to say about the guys as well, man. So don't forget to hit that like button one time for the culture and subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. Shout out to the homie Mike Hood as well, man. Pulling up with a super chat from the heart. Definitely appreciate you. He says, what up, Mr. Moats? Well, what's the word, man? He says, man, I love it. Or he says, man, I love how it all shook out. We got who we wanted. We invested in the offensive line, picked up a great linebacker. Then Wilson from Michigan, but he X's the M out. Shout out to the Ohio State boys. You can say it. I'm a Buckeye. I get it. The Ohio State. I get you. I got you. Cam with backfield. This 100%. Trust me. That was the other funny part going on Saturday. Because, you know, obviously we got this big ordeal going on. I'm hosting interviews on, you know, FedEx Great Hall, where we obviously are every Sunday game day. All right. And then we did an interview on the field. You had Cam upstairs, though, doing his podcast in the stadium as well, having different guests come through. So obviously we got the draft page sliding through. And yeah, we get the Michigan cat, Roman Wilson. We're like, all right, shout out to Michigan. But, you know, he definitely went up and had to go talk to Killer Cam. And Killer Cam is definitely big Ohio State energy. So, yeah, definitely a fun vid. Definitely a fun reaction with those two dudes, man. And then you got Mr. West Virginia, Zach Frazier. And it was funny because I'm talking to him. And this is right. Or no, I talked to him first. And then I got a chance to talk to another WVU alum, Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl champ, friend of the show, Mike Logan. It's dope talking with him, man, because obviously that W to W connection, Cloud 9. So West Virginia people love this pick. The Michigan people love Roman, and the Ohio State people are kind of conflicted because obviously he's a Michigan State guy, but he's talented as heck, man. So yeah, man, definitely a vibe with the group though, man. Definitely a vibe. And you're right though, man. We definitely we invested in the place that we need to invest in, man. Like I said, man, we got what we supposed to have gotten, or we got exactly what we were looking for in this draft and the way that the board fell out. All right, let's go UW. Also spent the block, and he says, it kind of felt like we were getting him to develop and replace Daniel since he's a free agent next year. Yeah, so that is the thought process. In terms of Mason McCormick, not just for James Daniels. You think James Daniels, Nate Herbig, along with Isaac Seumalo. You're looking at all three of those dudes, and you're saying to yourself, all their contracts are kind of, you know, back to back, so to speak. So you want to give yourself some flexibility. You don't want to feel pigeonholed like we have done at times, right? We can make a case that as we stand here today, our quarterback room kind of puts us in a position where we don't have any type of long-term solutions just yet. So how do you avoid that from happening? You got to draft something, and you want it to be young, but you don't want to invest ultra early, you know, compensation when you don't necessarily have the luxury of doing that, because this person is more than likely going to sit. So that was kind of the thought process with Mason. You can get him, still very good player, but you didn't have to over invest in him, but you got some insurance now. You have insurance where there's an injury that takes place. You have insurance whether there's a contract dispute that takes place. You have insurance just, you know, across the board, right or left. Anybody gets upset, right? So that's kind of the thought process with Mason. But you want to start that process. You would rather start it now than you kind of be stuck where we're saying to ourselves a year from now, man, James Daniels, man, he still looks good, but we don't know if we want to pay him. Or he's kind of struggling right now. Well, we don't have another option. Are we forced to draft a guard now? Kind of what we're talking about at center this year. We came into the draft and we're like, yo, we kind of have to hit on one of the big three. because we didn't have any depth. We didn't have any proven players or anybody that we felt had been in the system developing like what we would like to, from what we would like to have seen. So that's why I just think with the Mason McCormick pick, he checks that box off. All right. Let's see. Third G and Blake. All right. Third G and Blake. Shout out to Third Gen Blake. I think I'm killing your name, but hopefully I got it close enough to being correct. All right, salute you, bro. Salute you. And this is your first super chat, so I definitely appreciate you as well. He says, is there a chance we still trade for a wide receiver 2, or do we think Roman is wide receiver 2? So put it like this. Roman has the potential to develop into a wide receiver 2. You're hardly ever going to hear me just say flat out that a guy's going to come in and day one be wide receiver 2, just because I need to see him at the NFL level. Now, there is a higher probability that he should be able to come in here and develop into wide receiver 2 a lot sooner than later, because of the speed, because of his ability to run routes, and the details in terms of how he generates separation. And he's a natural hands catcher of the football with good run after ability. All of those qualities make us feel extremely good about his ability to develop into wide receiver 2. But at the same time, we have to see it actually come to fruition, because the corners that he was facing in the Big Ten, or even, in the national championship game, are going to be a little bit different at the NFL level. So he'll have a natural adjustment, but I do feel confident that he can develop. Now, I still don't hate the idea of potentially going to sign another wide receiver. If we wanted to make sure that that room is not just okay / has the potential to be really good, and we want to just make sure it's bona fide, well, hey, man, the receivers are on the trade market right now. We know what the going rate is, and our bankroll hasn't changed just because of the draft. The draft was going to happen regardless if we sign these dudes or not. If we wanted to go make a play, we can go make a play, but we know what it's going to cost. We're seeing what the going rate is, and that number keeps going up. Amon-Ra St. Brown said it. A.J. Brown hit one. The next one is going to be bigger than the A.J. Brown deal. That's the only thing that we got to decide if it's worth it and who do we target in that vein. But I'm good either way. I honestly am, because I do feel like the way that we invest into this offensive line, we are going to be more of a run first, play action pass, take the deep shots type offense. Like we talked about Tennessee, during that time with Tannehill, Derrick Henry going to the AFC Championship. I envision it looking like that. And if that's the case, I think Roman Wilson is plenty fine for what we're going to be asking of him and GP. I think the big question is, what does GP do this year? Because that's going to determine if this wide receiver room is okay, elite, or mid, right? Bad, right? JV, okay? Because to me, Roman, Van, Quez, Calvin, those are all good to really good, potentially players, right? But to make that wide receiver room feel great, we need that elite piece. We need that bona fide wide receiver 1 or franchise caliber guy. If GP can take that next step, well, that will put us in that vein. But if he only stays where he's at right now, you're flirting with, are you better than Deontay Johnson, or are you you have more feel-good moments than Deontay Johnson? That's, at that stage, yeah, we feeling a little light. So that's the part for me where it's really going to be up to GP. Now, if you don't want to wait that long, yeah, go ahead and get your wide receiver, man. Go get you another guy. Get you something a little bit more proven, a little bit more bona fide. Cost what it costs. It is what it is. But now we have the peace of mind. If not, then we just, like I said, banking on the young guy stepping up in terms of GP. Does he have the talent? Absolutely. He definitely does. But we know this is the NFL, man. So we will see if it actually comes to fruition in terms of the consistency with that. But that's the one thing for me where the talent is definitely there with GP. You see it. Can he put it together week in and week out and do it while he has to be the guy? That's going to be a different ask. We know earlier last season when Deontay Johnson got hurt and GP had to be the guy, the results weren't exactly what we wanted to see on a consistent basis. Quarterback had a lot to do with that as well, we know. But at the same time, those are some of the questions that within the organization, that's what they have to deal with. That's what they have to, kind of navigate through. But we can definitely make moves if we want to make moves. And that's the one part that, like I said, I will continue to feel good about that element right there, man. All right. Now, Aaron Grant, he's believing in GP. He's like, he's going to take the next step. And I'm digging it, man. Michael Martin feels like our issue is, do we have the QB that can maximize our receivers? I mean, put it like this. We had pretty much 2,000-yard receivers a year ago with the carousel at quarterback. I think if you're talking Russell Wilson, he's going to be better than anything that we've had the past 2 seasons. So that's the part where I think the question is, can these receivers take that next step? Because I'm not worried about Russ. Russ has already shown, even in a bad time, right? A bad down year, chaos, he's still nicer than anything we was putting out here, man, these past 2 years, if we being fully transparent. So that's the part, like I said, where I want to see, man, what these receivers are going to look like, man, in terms of Quez Watkins, right? We know you can beat receiver or beat DBs off the line, but can you consistently catch the football? Calvin Austin, we know that you can blaze down the field, but can you develop a little bit more in terms of some of the route running stuff? GP, we know that you're a crazy combat catch, circus catch guy. Can you add a little bit more to your repertoire in terms of just the little details with your route so we can get a little bit more separation from you? Van Jefferson, just don't fall off that age cliff just yet. We know it's getting, but you still have some flashes both in LA and in Atlanta. But it's like, yo, just keep fighting off, keep fighting off all the time. Fight that off. But those are the legitimate, questions that we're going to have with those guys, man. But I still feel good, though. I definitely still feel good about it, man. Pittsburgh Tidy said, all these Wilsons remind me of the Gap Band. Shout out to you and shout out to the Gap Band. If you know, you know. It's outstanding. Let's get it. Let's get it. Now, R. Barley 18 says, people forget Van Jefferson was the number 2 wide receiver on a Super Bowl winning team. You're absolutely right, man. That's definitely the case. And that's the part with Van where we do feel good about Van. We do feel like he has a lot of potential, man, to come in here and not just provide production, but provide leadership, provide what it looks like to see a guy that's won a championship or had a deep playoff run, how they work, the attention to detail, the focus. We said right now with the organization, prior to this offseason, there wasn't a lot of experience from guys that have actually had success in the postseason. We said specifically on the offensive line, it was dudes over there that outside, I think, Seyu Malu hadn't even, advanced in the postseason like that. Mitch, he started a postseason game. We talked about how they lost. Wasn't really on him, more so the field goal kicker, but that was, the height of the experience that we had in that room, so to speak. Whereas now you bring in 2 dudes on that offensive side of the ball that have already had the confetti rain on them, Russell Wilson and Van Jefferson. That's a very different type of conversation, a very different type of energy, a very different type of mindset to be around guys that have been champions or have, been on the door to championships. Like, when you're a part of those teams, man, you learn and it's contagious. And I think that that's the part that those guys are going to be able to implement to our offense and really help them continue to grow and just mature over there, man. All right. Shout out to Let's Go UW. Also spinning the block. He says, so what does the Roman Wilson pick mean for Calvin Austin III? Well, I told you the theme all year. Competition. That's what that means. Just because you were drafted a year or 2 years ago, it does not mean anything in the NFL. We always say the NFL stands for not for long, because you're either going to have somebody trying to beat you out off of talent. You're either going to have somebody trying to replace you off of an injury. You're going to have somebody trying to replace you because you cost too much. You're going to have somebody trying to replace you because you're deemed too old. Not for long. So this Roman Wilson pick, Quez Watkins on it, that's the Calvin Austin. Hey, you either better go here or you're going to be going there. That's just how the NFL works, man. But for me, I think Calvin is going to be ready because he has a defining characteristic: speed. All right. Now, the thing with him is he in the lab? Is he developing, working on, the holes in his game while also maximizing the strengths of his game? We're going to find out, because this is technically his first real off season. He was hurt year 1. We saw him last year, kind of like his rookie season. But now this is supposed to be that big jump year for him. But the Steelers understand, man. If you don't find ways to get the most out of each and every player, you're not going to have success, let alone get that confetti in terms of winning a championship. So you want to have competition, or as much competition as your roster as possible. And this is one of those moves right here where for Calvin, it's like, all right, he might have personally thought, man, we done moved on from Deontay Johnson. GP has to step up and be wide receiver 1. That gives me the opportunity to be wide receiver 2. But then what do? We brought in Van Jefferson. We brought in Quez Watkins. And now we draft Roman Wilson. So it's telling you right now, they want to see, can you be that? Or are you just a slot guy that's fast and just a return man? But he's going to have to answer those questions, man. But I do feel like, he's going to take that. Or it's hard to say that he will, but it's like I hope that he does, because everything about him, I mean, I feel like he's one of those guys that has great energy. He's one of those guys that's always, optimistic when you're watching him and you're hearing him talk. Obviously, when he came on the show, you can hear the energy and the positivity with him. And that's the part when you put those together, work ethic, defining characteristic, which is speed, and you say, yeah, I think this guy does have a better chance of continuing to develop, versus you see a dude with a bad attitude, or he thinks that he already knows it all, or he feels that, hey, man, he can rest on what he's already done. Not the same. Those dudes typically don't last. So that's the part for me where I feel like Calvin Austin has everything checked off that you would want. And now we just got to see it come to fruition this offseason. But that's what Roman and all those other dudes mean to Calvin Austin, though, man. That is direct competition, baby. But it's a good vibe, though. You'd rather they bring in competition than just flat out say, hey, man, these are the replacements. You're out of here. So that's the thing with Calvin, where you take it, you understand what it is, you look at that wide receiver room, but when it's OTAs, practice start in what, a couple of weeks? Oh, the boy gonna be out there. I give him reports, absolutely. But when that starts, that's when you gotta start showing from then all the way up until the season, and then when the season starts, continue it. Because otherwise, those are gonna be the questions. Can you develop into a route runner, or are you just a speed guy? Can you be more than this? What else can you do? Or can you do this one thing better than anybody else? And that's the other part. So we will see, man. Now, let's see. Michael Martin says, between GP, Roman Wilson, Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, Cordell Patterson, not sure we're going to carry 6 wide receivers. And that's very legitimate. Now, the saving grace when you're talking about, Calvin Austin and Cordell Patterson is they wear multiple hats. We know Cordell is not just a wide receiver. That's a wide receiver, running back, kickoff return guy. Calvin Austin, not just a wide receiver, punt returner. Now, we know Roman Wilson also has some punt return in his game as well, but those are the two things that those two guys kind of bring to the table. So in terms of Patterson, I feel really good about Patterson being here. I mean, GP, Wilson, Jefferson, feel good about those dudes. Watkins, Calvin Austin, those are going to be the guys that you're trying to see. What are you going to do to make a move? What are you going to do to sort of, make it where the team has to make that decision of, do we keep 6 or do we keep 5? That's, a legitimate part of it. But we got plenty of time to get to that part, between OTAs, training camp, preseason games, stuff like that. But that is definitely the mindset with it, though, man. That is definitely the mindset. Now, Rick Clark, I know they have Roman Wilson listed as 6 foot, 190, similar to Hines Ward. I know this, and I'm sure a lot of people saw that, and they were like, yeah, it's just similar to Hines Ward. I'm telling you now, I saw him in person. I was standing next to him. He's not built like Hines Ward, man. He's not 6 foot. I know how tall I am. He was like he was kind of shorter than me, and I was, ooh, all right. But that's all right, because his game is fire. He's speed, agility, and he understands how to run routes and catch that football. And when he gets it in his hands, he is a nightmare to deal with in terms of just trying to get him on the ground. But I ain't seeing that 6 foot, bro. And look, I would love for that to be the case, because if he's 6 foot, then the boy got to be like 6'2". All right, I'm feeling 6'2", 6'3". Well, they got me listed at 6'2" on some website, so maybe I'm like 6'4" there. All right, you catch what I'm implying. All right, the numbers ain't numbering right. That whoever did the math ain't mathing right. Okay, so just be careful. Yeah. Michael Martin said he's 6 foot like Deontay. Yeah, he's a Deontay 6 foot. Yeah. You just gotta round it up, man. Yeah. Ex-cost Steve Smith type. There you go. Think about Steve Smith. Steve was a shorter receiver, but Steve won't little. And that's the difference. Like Calvin Austin, with all due respect, is a little receiver. You look at Calvin is short and thin. Roman is shorter, but he's compact. Think like Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren in a little play just because he's short. He's like, yo, that's a little muscle rolling around back there, man. Be careful, all right? Roman does give you the Steve Smith type of vibes, though. I think that's a dope comp, man, in terms of whoever brought that up. Oh, X concepts. Just in terms of like smaller, feistier, once he catches that football, the run after ability, the ability to just win with physicality in the route game. Like, he has that type of game. But yeah, he doesn't play like somebody pissed in his cornflakes. That was Steve Smith's the angriest person I've ever seen on the football field. Like I said, the only person, it's only been two people where I'm like, bro, y'all make me a little uncomfortable out here. Adrian Peterson and Steve Smith. I'm just like, bro, y'all are crazy. AP grunting, angry, pissed off if you tackle him like he want to kill you. And then you got Steve Smith. He trying to literally fight you. If you even look at him the wrong way. All right, what you, like, yo, Steve, chill, bro. You got to breathe, bro. You got to breathe. Anger management, man. So shout out to both of them cats, though, man. Oh, and Caleb Campbell. I appreciate you shouting out the hoodie, man. I have seen actually a good amount of y'all shouting out my hoodie. It's my Grateful Dead hoodie, man, from when they came to Pittsburgh. You know, or Burgettstown, excuse me for that one, man. But yeah, man, I did pull up on them for their final, the final tour. Waited, I think it was 3 hours in traffic? It might have been 4 hours in traffic. Yeah, it was nuts. But the concert was fire from what I got to check out. And, I had to leave with some merch, man. So salute to each and every one of y'all, man. All my deadheads out there. If y'all know, you know, all right? Catch me on Shakedown Street for the culture. All right. Shout out to you, Godzilla. J. Coyne. Respect. All right. We also got Yule Young. Shout out to Yule Young in the building, too, man. We always appreciate you tapping in with us. But he says McCormick's athleticism will make for some good pulls. And I do agree with you there. That is one of the things that when you watch him on screens, you watch him on, perimeter style plays where he's asked to play in space, climb to the second level, you see his ability to set up and make those type of blocks. Now, the difference in athleticism when you look at McCormick, when he pulls out there on them screens or he's pulling out there on toss plays versus Troy Fautanu. That's the reason why one's a first rounder and one's a fourth rounder. Both get the job done, but looks a little bit different. Troy looking like he's about to kill 3-4 people when he pull up on you, and he might even leave his feet and get activated, right? With Mason, not as athletic, not as scary, but still effective. And that's the part where you can see it, and that's the part for me where I'm like, I like the potential development that this kid is going to get. I like the potential guys that he gets to learn behind and compete with. When you're talking, say you Milo, a dude that's played in the Super Bowl, James Daniels, second contract guy, could play center or guard. Then you talk Nate Herbig, second contract guy. All three of those dudes are going to be guys that Mason's going to be able to look to, ask questions, and learn from, but also compete with and push himself as well. And he gets to feel good about the young core as well when you're talking about Zach Frazier, Troy Fautanu, and Broderick. So it doesn't feel like I'm the baby in the room, because at times that isn't the best feeling. I know for me, when I came in the league, I felt like the baby in the room. It was like, bro, all y'all in here got 9+ years or 8+ years. Like, this is crazy. And it's hard to connect at times. But when you talk about Mason, he's not going to necessarily have to deal with that, because he is going to have a little bit more guys closer to his age group. So that's the other part that I like for Mason, man. But I think this is a really solid pickup, man. Really solid pickup. What up, let's go, you dub? Spinning the block with another super from the heart. You know I appreciate you, baby. He says, thoughts on a potential Cam Sutton return? I'm good so long as it's for a vet minimum. Otherwise, I'll pass. He wasn't that productive in Detroit to justify it. All right, well, there's an interesting one. I think we saw a report come out last night that the Steelers were either going to be meeting with him or were looking into, potentially talking with him. Couple of things, man. With Sutton, long as everything from a legal standpoint is good and all that got worked out, I trust the Steelers with that. No matter how much any of us looking on a headline on TV or reading a report, we can have an opinion on it, but we do not have the details. Not the full details that these teams are going to have, because these teams are talking directly to the source. We get it secondhand. All right, so that is the difference. So if the team deems that, hey, we've researched all of this, we've looked into the issue, and everything is clear, everything is good, then I'm down. I'm not tripping on that. Now, in terms of Cam Sutton, Cam Sutton, I already tell you, that's my dude, man. It's like little brother to me, man. So you're not going to ever hear me talk down on him because I feel like he is a very smart, tough, physical player that has athleticism, that has grown from just being a slot corner to where the Detroit Lions paid him because they felt like he could be a bona fide starting outside corner. He's showing us here that he could play outside corner, corner number 2. He's smart. He understands how to use his skills and athletic traits to his best ability. He gets in trouble at times when it's the matchup of we want you to play man versus a wide receiver 1. And at times in Detroit, that's what he was asked to do. And yeah, it kind of got bad at times. That's not his game. But when you put Cam in a situation where JPJ is CB1 and now you're talking about him as CB2, potentially CB3 or in the slot, yeah, it's way, way better situation. You're also talking about the fact that, yeah, he's probably going to be on a lower level contract, but for him, it's not tripping because depending on how much guaranteed money he got in Detroit, that got to feel somewhat good. Now, I don't know what they're going to recoup or try to recoup because of how everything played out. Hence the reason why, once again, I said, if legally they've checked all out and everything is good, because otherwise we're playing with fire. If a dude is, dealing with something and is janky and is dealing with what they were talking about what he was dealing with, it's like, bro, you bringing that in here. Football isn't bigger than life, man, and football can't be bigger than that. And that's the part where I think it could, get a little messy, but I trust the organization. They're not going to make that type of move unless they feel confident in him and this whole legal process with him. But that's kind of, like I said, my thoughts on it with Cam. But like I said, man, that's my brother right there. That's my dude, man. Shoot. So that is how I feel about him, man. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask because I am slightly biased towards my dog, but that's that. But at the same time, dog or not, accountability is real. And when, you're dealing with the stuff that was coming out from a report standpoint, you just need some clarification. You need to get some information. You need to get that taken care of. But if a Deshaun Watson can go sign with the Browns after everything that he was, facing and being accused of, but once again, what happened? Went through the legal process, cleared, multiple grand juries, cleared. When that's the case, who are we to say that we're bigger than the justice system? And that's going to be my stance every single time with cases like Sutton or anybody else that is dealing with any type of off-field issue. If they're clear from a legal standpoint, I am not about to sit here and act like I'm just greater than everybody and all. They can say that, but nah, F that. I think you got to sit down. Who the heck am I to be like that, man? So that's why I say I trust the legal system, man. I got to trust the team with that one. But like I said, man, that's my vibe with that. So we shall see. We shall see. All right. And Frank K says, who would our starting slot corner be as of today? Well, let's see. As of today, what option would I want to go with on the interior part? Because I know the easy chalk would just say, man, I'm going to put KZ down there because I got Deshaun Elliott. They could start strong safety, and I'm going to have Minkah Fitzpatrick at free safety. I already got Dante Jackson, who I traded for, who's already been a starter in this league, gets a ton of interceptions. So that's my cornerback 2. And like I said, JPJ is cornerback 1. So yeah, I think initially I would go DeMonte Casey if I'm looking for more of the coverage side of it. If I wanted to get a little bit more size in there, I go Corey Trice Jr. because that is a big body dude. Or if I flirt with Corey Trice on the outside, I'm flirting with Dante Jackson being at the inside in terms of just having bigger body people. And when I go with the bigger body unit, like you're hearing me talk about, I'm not looking at that group and I'm asking them to match up with offense and let offense dictate. No, I'm saying if I'm going with the bigger body groups, we're being the aggressors. We're being the ones that are going to make these smaller guys have to deal with us. So I'm thinking more of my blitzing and more of my zones, my Tampa 2s and stuff like that we already know the Steelers like to run a lot of. But why? Because it gives me eyes on quarterback, and now these big athletes can break and make these receivers have to think twice about catching the football. Now, you got to do it in the best way possible because we know they're going to tap in that pocket if you don't do it right. But you can definitely get after it like that, man, and that could work. So that would be my initial thought in terms of how I look at the slot cornerback position. But at the same time, I do feel like we're not done just yet. Just because the draft happened, that doesn't mean that it's over with. Nah, we still gonna be looking through free agency, seeing what other pieces we would like to potentially bring in. Also, do not sleep on the UFL. We've seen multiple players come out of that league or the past couple of years leagues combined, right? XFL, USFL. We talked about Cameron Kelly, who's starting in the UFL, started for us week 1 versus the Patriots a couple years ago, coming right out of one of them leagues, man. So that's the other part where he said, man, just keep your we'll keep an eye out to see if any of that happens. But that's my initial thought process on, today cornerback or today's slot corner. But at the same time, man, we still got time. We don't have to play a game today, and that is the beautiful part of it, man. All right. Shout out to Steelers Girl 808. She says she's checking in from Maui. Well, aloha. Let's get it. Let's get it. All right. And Ragu says, hello, Steeler fans. Hello. Good day. Good day. Yeah. All right. Let's see what the people are saying. So Noriega Pistol Pete Rooney says he's all for bringing Cam Sutton back. All right, respect on that. Bart Basquiato says he would bring Cam Sutton back. All right. X Concept says Dante Jackson is underrated and is our clear outside cornerback too. I would agree. I don't think a lot of people respect him. And I'm like, y'all just need to go cut on a game. Just cut on the game. Last year was the down year, and he still cut on the game. Trust me on this one, man. That's why when I saw the trade and people was like, oh, man, did we kind of get fleeced in this? I'm like, no. We got us a legit cornerback, too, that has started for multiple seasons, and outside of last year, has had multiple interceptions per season as well. Last year was the first year back from Achilles, and he started and played in every game and still was producing, man. So that's the part for me where I'm like, people just need to see him in the black and gold and get that Carolina off of him, and I think they're going to have a different perception of him, man. And yeah, Summer, we do still have Darius Fresh. Let me make sure I didn't butcher that one. But yeah, we definitely still do have Darius Fresh, man, the young corner that we signed late last. It was I forgot what week it was. It was like in the middle of the season, I want to say. But yeah, man, he was able to come in and definitely provide us with some high quality snaps as well, man. So definitely like that. I want to say he either quarter pick or he should have quarter pick and dropped that joint in one of the games, man. But he's another one of those guys that gives us some flexibility, that gives us some potential as well, man. Yeah, and now Noriega Pistol Pete Rooney brought up Ryan Watt and said he's going to be in the slot. Just watch. Now, I told you, he has the chance to do that because of the size and athleticism. I think he's more of a safety. But if you think about how the safety position plays, the slot corner is just a will linebacker or a Sam linebacker in a 4-3 defense. That's why you want a guy that can cover, can blitz, can play the run, because you got to tackle at that spot. That's why I say Ryan Watts does have the potential to play there. But at the same time, my only concern with him is just, once again, if we're going to be more of this matching up man-to-man stuff, that's where he could struggle. But if we treat it like how we said, when I was talking about some of those other guys, treat them with size and make them be the guys that dictate the action versus the guys that are reacting to the action, I think that can definitely help them out, man. But like I said, those are the options that I see right now, man. All right, now Frank K says, if we add a slot corner and a wide receiver too, you better look out. Now, I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that because those are still part of the areas where we would like to be just a little bit better, a little bit more solidified. Slot corner, wide receiver too. Once everything has kind of fallen, we've seen where now some secondary, even some third level issues have, bumped up into the priority lane now because we've been able to check off the tackle box. We've been able to check off the center box. We've been able to check off the linebacker box. We've been able to check off the quarterback box. We've checked off a ton of these other boxes. So we will see with this particular, one that's remaining, what it looks like, man. But I do feel good about the group. I do feel good about what what Omar is going to do and what this coaching staff is going to do in terms of either maximizing what we currently have or adding more, resources from outside. But either way, I think we're going to take care of business on that, man. And then Let's Go UW also says, hope the Steelers at least give a camp invite to my dog, Cole Godbout, D tackle out of Wyoming. Ooh, okay. I'm going to have to check him out, man. I have not heard anything, but hopefully he gets the invite, bro. If that's the case, I'm definitely going to check him out. And And I'm going to have to look in to see where Easton Gibbs landed at, man. I missed him, man, because like I said, I was running crazy with all this draft stuff. But I did want to see where Easton Gibbs and Frank Crum ended up getting drafted to, man. So I'm going to tap in with them a little later, man, and see what's up, because I know they your dudes. Let's go UW, all right? So salute you on that. Hi. Oh, I see you, 55 Porter. 55 Porter from the top rope says, Payton Wilson will be, in all caps, better than Jack Lambert at the inside linebacker position. He says screenshot it and save it. That's what 55 Porter said. I didn't say that, but that's what he said. So I'm just relaying the message, and I hope you're right. Because if that's the case, then, baby, we are going to love this pick. And we're going to be putting a gold jacket on Omar Khan. We're going to be like, yo, you're elite, man. What you been doing? Holla. All right? But we shall see. We shall see. Oh, so Frank Crum went to Denver. All right, shout out to you. Let's go UW for the update on that. And then Gibbs to Seattle. Ooh, I like Easton in Seattle. I like that place for him. I think that's a smart move for him. Obviously, he didn't choose that, but I think he has a chance, a legitimate chance over there in that Seattle defense, man. I do like that. And Frank going to Denver is Denver. So he's going to get ready to protect. Let's see, is Zach Wilson or Bo Nix? Yeah. He could be the guy. I'm with you. I like Frank though. All right. But man, we've been in here for a little bit over an hour. All right. Well, you know what? That will do it for the initial reactions to these, draft picks. Like I said, man, we are gonna come back in here tomorrow, man. Hit the podcast with me and the homie Deke, where we will deep dive even more so, man, and answer some of the questions that we both gonna have for each other with some of these players, man. But you already know what to do, man. Hit that like button one last time if you have not done so. And don't forget to subscribe if you have not either. If you're new to the channel, man, you got to tap in, all right? We also got the website, arthurmoats.com. Updates happening over there, man. So you definitely want to tap in and check out all the cool stuff that's going on. And for my sneakerheads, all right? You see all the kicks, baby. Hey, man, Kicking It with Moats. That's the YouTube channel when you want to check that type of stuff out as well. But either way, I appreciate you for tuning in. And until next time, baby, peace.